with another video. It's been a little bit since I've posted something, so I wanted to do something a little different than what I normally do. So what you'll notice is we have MT4 open, a little visually unappealing on the eyes, but I think that this is going to be a very interesting kind of way to do videos and to showcase things. So what I have here is an MT4 simulator called Soft4FX. And how I have this set up is we're going to be looking at EURUSD. I have the 1 hour chart on the top here, the daily chart on the left, and the 4 hour chart on the right. And so basically what you can see is on the daily, we are overall moving in kind of this correction, and on the 4 hour and the hourly, you can see that we're moving in an ascending channel. I have this trend line drawn kind of through this point just because on the 4 hour you can see this really large wick, likely due to news or something like that. So to kind of just keep things super relevant in terms of price action, I've just decided to draw through it. So what I'm noticing right off the bat is just this type of pattern right here, essentially impulse, correction, impulse, looking to target the upside here. I wouldn't be taking a trade like that just knowing that there's a good chance that we could be reacting to this point here. But it's always good to keep that in mind, especially when looking at an ascending channel. Typically you'll have kind of an upper portion, a middle continuation type pattern, and then it completes at the third touch for the sell. That's what I'll be looking for this particular setup. So what I can do, let's just get this all set up. Let's see, so I'll just kind of play this forwards. What you'll notice is it completes on all the time frames, so it's a super helpful tool. It's a little bit more helpful than the bar replay on TradingView if you can look past MT4's archaic design. Let me just speed that up a little bit, so we'll see what we get. A little bit faster, why not? That way this video doesn't last all night. We'll see, we're just kind of trickling to the upside. I'll get rid of this as it's not really important to us as of right now. So see, we're breaking, but how are we breaking? We're breaking more correctively, so I wouldn't be trying to jump involved in a trade, and that's typically what you'll notice. You'll see price kind of catch you on the wrong side, and then all of a sudden impulse in the wrong way. When you think of liquidity, for every buy there needs to be a sell, every sell there needs to be a buy, and that's why these kind of strange fake outs can often happen. Since now we're entering kind of the price action area that I was interested in looking in, I'll kind of slow it down. So what I'm looking for now is, since we've effectively hit this third touch area, we're seeing some sensitivity, but we can always kind of gain from this, and what's a higher probability is a pattern within a pattern. So essentially I'd be looking for some kind of ascending channel within this ascending channel, or look for a solid retrace candle of some sort. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rein this in for now, since we know we're at that third touch area, and we can just focus completely on current price without kind of that blocking our view. So I'm just going to go candle by candle a little bit here, just to kind of keep things nice and slow. So if we look here, we get a retrace candle. I'm not really convinced, to be honest. This still kind of continuing this move. It's starting to get corrective, which is great, but I'd like to see a little bit more clarity in terms of the structure of this. So no problem. I mean, we're at the top structure. Looking at the daily candle, we're seeing it's pretty impulsive. So selling it, maybe not the greatest idea initially. We'll keep going. So what we can start to see now is we're starting to get some of the structure that I would be looking for. So if I just draw this on really quickly, throw that on. So we're kind of getting an ascending channel, and the market's never picture perfect, so it's definitely not going to be completely perfect. So there's two kind of ways that we can take this. At the third touch, price doesn't necessarily have to get there. We're kind of having trouble breaking this high. Let's just do one more candle up. See, broke the high now, so there's a good chance we get to the third touch. Don't have to quite get there. We can just start to terminate and see the move down. So what I can do is I'm going to put an order in for about a sell stop order for about, let's do 25 pips from where we are. That way, you know, it's kind of stress-free. I don't really have anything to to suggest, but he would like to get involved in this trade. So what I'll do is we're at 1% risk per trade. That's really all we do. So if we're selling at the 25 pip, let's just see. We need to have about a 35 pip stop loss. So what we can do, let's just kind of keep playing this, see what happens. One more candle. Be patient and just see. If we close as a retrace candle, I would consider taking it since we're at the top of structure. So there we go. What we can see, if we zoom in just a little bit, we've gotten that almost full 100% engulfing candle. We know we're at the top of structure. The daily was really impulsive. That's really the only thing we have against us in this case, but I think looking at it, everything else is kind of in place. So instead of taking that pending order I was talking about, let's just take a market order. Zoom this out just a little bit. Squeeze that. Okay, so if we're going to take a trade, ideally we would want to be probably about 30 pips just to give it room, just in case we get more of a third touch up in this area. What you'll see is we've broken the high but then immediately retraced, so there's a good chance that we could just fall from here. We're taking a risk entry, knowing that there's some risk obviously involved, but we're getting at the top of structure, which is the best case. So we'll do 30 pips stop loss, perfectly good. We'll enter the sell here, and what you'll see is here's the trade. You'll be able to track it with us. So let's just play this forward, speed it up just a little bit and see, do we get tagged out? Do we see a drop? Again, we're selling at the top of structure at an ascending within an ascending. Everything's looking good. The only thing, like I said, that would be kind of working against us is just kind of looking at the daily. But what you can see is we're kind of reacting to this kind of high. So we could see some rejection here, seeing some larger wicks. 4 hour, again, looking really impulsive. So, you know, good chance we could get stopped out, but no big deal. So as you can see, we've broken somewhat impulsively. We're starting to kind of move back, kind of just moving in and around, break even, whatever. Let's just speed this up, get a little bit quicker. All right, we're starting to get some nice commitment. If you look on the 4 hour, you got this really nice retrace candle. So that's essentially, I won't say confirming that we're going to drop, but it's definitely a really heavy indication that we have some sellers in the market, especially based on the way structure is kind of forming out for us. So we'll just do that, zoom it out just a little bit. Okay. So at this point, I wouldn't be quite ready to move to break even yet. Once we hit about 30 pips into profit, which we are there now, we can hit that to break even. We're hitting about the 90% of this pattern. So the 90% is just essentially the bottom or top of the correction that you're looking at. So 90% for this pattern would be here, which would be ultimately our target more or less for this particular trade. So basically what we're seeing here is it's continuing, really nice looking 4 hour. And what we can do now, since we have such a massive, well, not massive, but a nice drop nonetheless, is we can put a ray line on this point. Let's see if I can get this somewhat straight. Not too bad. So what we'll do is we're just going to kind of monitor how price gets to this point. We might be able to get a scale in because what tends to happen is once we kind of approach the bottom trend line, we can see it move back up one more time, see a little bit of a retrace. So we'll kind of monitor for that, but if not, we can look to maybe scale in if we get a flag of some kind, especially looking good more at this point since this is kind of a swing on the hourly chart. And as we know that the 4 hours just started here, we got kind of a retrace, so the chances of us moving up are looking pretty good. So kind of look at this. This is moving up pretty correctively for the most part. We're not seeing impulsive candles kind of like this. They're just small in nature, so nothing to really be concerned about yet. We're at break even anyway, so no big deal. All right, so let's just pause that for a second and draw this out. So essentially what we can start to see is we're forming what we could argue is the beginning of a flag. We don't really have any top points, but since we're going to use this more as a scale in, should be okay. This trade's at break even, so if you're going to take a scale in, this is the best kind of approach to do it. We could use the 15-minute as a refinement tool, but I'm not going to focus on the 15-minute at all. I don't want to overcomplicate things and just show the possibilities that exist just using the hourly, the 4 hour, and the daily. So let's just kind of move this forward. So we're getting really close to that area. Let's see if we slightly break that, which would likely tag us out, but we're looking for this trade, so not a huge issue. Or if we get a retrace candle, I'll definitely look to enter. And we get this kind of weird low test pin bar type candle. Do that. So what I'm going to do in this situation, I'm not fully convinced that this sell is going to necessarily pan out, but what I can do is I'm pretty confident that it's going to drop just looking at the 4 hour, seeing that kind of rejection. We're at break even. I'm going to set a pending order here for about 15 pips. And if that's 15 pips is about here, we're going to need, we'll do about a 35 pip stop loss. Let's see what that order looks like. So a sell stop. That's good. So we're just under our initial entry. So pretty much they're running in tandem, which is excellent. So we'll play that and we'll just see what we do. Worst comes to worst, we lose 1%. Not a huge issue because the success comes from your winners, not your losers. All right, we're tagged into the trade. And as you see, wow, we impulse quite nicely. So what you'll see at this point, since we used a 35 pip stop loss, and this one is at 41 pips, we can move it to break even. And a video I have done in the past, I'm not sure if it actually made it to my YouTube channel or not, but was basically talking about how the 90% rule of patterns is typically a commonplace for price to retrace into before it drops again. So keeping that in mind, I wouldn't want to move my stop loss and secure really any profits at this stage. What I can do though is we'll take this first position, we'll just lock in the same profit here so they're running kind of in tandem. So a little tip, we'll just let this go. We'll see if it retests back in. It's very common when we're in more of an impulsive phase that it will do that. If it doesn't, I mean, no big issue. So yeah, we'll just see what happens here. Kind of keep playing that forward, speed it up a little bit. So as you see, we're retesting this 90%. So if we had locked in profit here, we would have been tagged out. And this is kind of a situation where, you know, you could argue that this is kind of forming another flag, kind of a flat flag. But since we just took this entry, I'm not really interested in getting in again. Your broker would love you paying extra commissions and spreads and things like that, but you're really just opening yourself up to quite a bit of risk since it's not that far down from your initial entry. I mean, if you want to do that, all the power to you. You can totally do that. But we'll just kind of keep playing this forward. So we're definitely consolidating at this stage. And now we're really tapping into this 90%. Once we kind of break these lows, so there we go, easy to set right there. What I can now do is I can safely kind of start moving to these previous highs, feeling a little bit more confident about that happening. If you did want to take another entry on here, I would say that the best one would have been something around these lines because we're retesting this 90% with essentially a flag of sorts. So yeah, but not in here to take a bunch of crazy trades. So we'll just kind of keep playing this forward. 4 hours looking really nice. You can see on the 4 hour, this is just one larger flag. So a lot of confirmation that this move is going to continue moving to the downside. At this point, you'll see or notice on this flag, 90%, it has retested before it dropped. It doesn't happen all the time, but it's definitely something to be aware of from a management perspective. And so what I'm going to do is I'm just going to lock in profit to this high since we know that we've retested it. And really, I don't want to give any more profits back to the market than I really need to. You know, we're in this to make percentages and take good trades. And if we're going to leave our stops wide open, that's a little concerning, confusing as to why we'd be doing that. So we'll just keep going forward, see what we get. As you can see, we're approaching the lower portion of the daily trend line here. Not a big deal. We'll just see how we react. We're kind of just consolidating more or less at this point. What we can do is we can start looking for another entry if we want. So we're 17th. Just blasting through this. This is what I like. We can do 4,500 ticks a second. Really just blast through price action and just just get comfortable with this. One thing I want to point out here is if we look on the 4 hour, we're starting to become a little bit more corrective, kind of in the shape of a descending channel. So it's always something to keep in mind when we're looking for positions. You know, what are the higher time frames saying? We're seeing on the daily, we're slowing down, descending channel, but we're not really seeing anything besides that. So we can still look for sells, but we have to be cognizant that if we take any more entries, we need to be on our management game in that regard. So let's see what we got here. So this is kind of shaping up to be somewhat of a flag. It's not the cleanest. Kind of have this a little bit. Let me zoom that in just a little bit. Do that. Okay. So we can get something just a little bit nicer. That would be ideal. So I'm just going to go candle by candle and just see if we get anything more clear. So we can say we have 0.1, 0.2. Starting to go up. Okay, so we'll just adjust that just a little bit more. Perfect. Put in the top portion of this flag, just do something like that for now. See if we can get a second solid point. And if that's the case, then, you know, look to take a sell of sorts. So let's just move this forward. Okay. So this is what happens. It didn't quite give me what I was looking for. So missed a sell opportunity, but these trades are pretty heavy in profits at this point, or almost 300 pips. So sitting at about 11% just on this move. So since we missed that, I'm just gonna lock in more profit. I mean, you're not gonna get all the trades. Sometimes trades just don't give you exactly what you're looking for, and there's no sense getting upset about it. We just take what the market gives us and just move on. So we'll just play this forward a little bit more, see if maybe we get another trade. So we're approaching the 90% of this, so we can see if we kind of go back into this area here, which, I mean, we're obviously doing now. See if we can get some sort of a flag, and then we can look to scale in for essentially what would be a hover of the larger daily time frame trend line here, and see if we break to the downside, because that's kind of what this structure is showcasing at this stage. So if I just keep moving that forward, this is actually looking a lot better. So now we have 2 clear points, and we'll see if we get a third point, because that would be the best stage. We're kind of doing an ascending channel within that. Let me just zoom in so we can see it a little bit clearer. So we got that starting to get a little bit corrected, which is nice. And okay, so let's just keep this going, see if we get anything above a third touch. Okay, all right, so there we go. We got basically what looks to be a third touch. We'll just kind of clean that up a little bit. Now, what I'd be looking for is some sort of rejection to showcase. I mean, we have this high test here, so that's the first element I would look for personally. Okay, so we have a retrace candle. It's in these cases, since it's so close to the trend line, you could set an order at the break here. And in this case, you know, I could put a 20 pip stop, so I'm not too fussed to take it on the break. So that's what I'm going to do. I do another 1% trade with a 20 pip stop loss, market order. So we're just above that high. Other stop losses are there. So we're in the trade. So now we have 3 going on this move. It's crazy. Well, let's just slow this down. It's getting a little crazy, but as you can see, it seems like this is going to play out pretty nicely. And this is definitely something to take note of as you're kind of working through the charts, seeing how new patterns react off of 90% rules of previous patterns. Sometimes you can get some really nice scale-in positions that you can capitalize on in that case. So in this case, we're almost at 20 pips in profit, so we can think about moving to break even very soon. So let's kind of keep moving this forward. See, I'm going back into a little bit of drawdown. Not a big deal, because what I was saying earlier, we're kind of moving in this descending channel on the 4 hour. So from a management perspective, this definitely could suggest we could see somewhat of a reversal. And what I'm going to do, actually, now that we're starting to see this a little bit more clearly, let's just draw that in. Just so we're aware of that. We have a little bit more downside room to go, even if this descending channel plays out. So we should be okay from our trade perspective. Let's speed that up just a little bit more. And we'll see, do we get stopped out, or do we kind of keep just barely squeak by in this case, but we'll see. Yeah, no big deal. Like I said, heavy in profits on the other trades. And what I'll do too, since we're kind of making that observation, we will move the other two positions into profit just with the other position, so that if price spikes up, all the trades are terminated. It's a good way to kind of manage all your positions. If you just manage the stop losses all in the same, usually works out pretty well in that case. So as you can see, we didn't really break impulsively. We're kind of going into this correction and then correcting sideways again, which doesn't instill the most confidence in this setup that we took here, but we'll just see how it goes. So we're starting to get a little bit of impulse. All right, so we've gotten 20 pips. I'm going to move that to break even. We've taken all the risk off the table in this case. We are approaching this kind of daily trend line, so there's a good chance we could see a deeper correction, which is fine. We'll just see what happens. Like I said, we have this descending channel, so there's a good chance we could move back to the upside. How we do that remains to be seen, but let's speed this up. Zoom out a little bit. Okay. So we're kind of just correctively moving still, not giving us the greatest signs that this is going to continue dropping. So it's likely we're going to get tagged out of this trade very soon, which is totally fine. So look at that, perfect rejection here on that. So what you can do is, since we have this trade, we can kind of just put it at the high, because this is a very strong retracement candle. So what's likely going to happen is we're going to get a more larger move to the upside. So what I'll do is I'm just going to secure a little bit more profit. That way I don't have to give as much pips back to the market than necessary, essentially. I mean, as you're seeing here, we're 11% up, you know, a couple pips in the bag. So no point in being greedy. Take what the market gives us, and then we'll reassess. And this comes down to taking a message from the market. We're seeing this descending channel, and we're seeing it starting to play out. And then this was kind of the silver lining here. We've seen this retrace candle low test right at the perfect trend line, which is pretty crazy when that happens, to be honest. So taking that message, getting a little bit of a reaction here. So we were tagged out of that trade. Still in the other two, but we'll just see if we keep going up or if we drop. So we'll just kind of keep moving this forward a little bit to move this a little bit along. So we're dropping, but not really much happening here. Starting to get super corrective. Okay, so we got tagged out of all of our trades for a total of 9.7% from those basically two positions. So that's pretty good. So what I'm going to do is I'm just going to rein this in and see if we break or if any other patterns are forming. So we'll just do that and just see what we get. Because what I'm noticing right off the bat is if we just get rid of this now, is we're not seeing any real impulsive moves to the upside. So we could say that we're forming essentially another ascending channel. I mean, the bias is still pretty heavily down. We're kind of at this area where we could go to the upside, you know, seeing the 4 hour, it's impulsive, lots of lower wicks. But sometimes you can use the lower time frames just to see if you can get involved in some other trades. So let's just see what we get. Let's see if we at least get back to these. If we get to these high, here we could consider taking a sell. So we do about a 20 pip stop. So we're struggling to break the high. So we'll just see, do we get any strong candles? So we have that. Kind of have almost what looks like impulse, correction, impulse. So I'm not really going to touch that. We'll just move forward. And we see it is starting to move down, but we're kind of wicking back. Let's see what happens. Looks like we filled the wick, but it's not the greatest setup in the world. Pop back up. Yeah, not the greatest trade to really be in. So what we'll do is, now that we have kind of more updated structure, we can just pop these back in. and see if we can get involved in any buy positions now. We're going to flip our bias because we're seeing that we're not really getting too much going on here. In terms of sells, kind of having trouble going back up. And we have this descending channel, so we're going to take that message from the market and just see, is there anything we can get involved in? So we're starting to move up. And we can argue that this is impulse, correction, impulse to go to the downside. We'll just see how that plays out. And we're still starting to move up, pretty steep. So not really the most convincing for a buy or a sell at this point, if I'm entirely honest, but okay, so we're starting to break quite impulsively. So what we would want to be doing now is just looking for some sort of continuation pattern, a bull flag, to confirm this move to the upside. So we're starting to potentially get something right here. Just draw that in. Oops, that's the wrong tool. Let's do that. It's amazing how ugly MT4 makes charting. Let's see what we get here. So, looking good. Not really overly convinced since we don't have a clear bottom. Forming more of an expanding at this point, so could go down one more. There we go. So let's just draw this into the wick if I can click it. Apparently it's being finicky now. That's okay. Anyway, so what we'll do, there we go. Just see what we get here. So basically what we're seeing is we have this expanding triangle, which is continuation pattern. We've rejected the low here. I'm going to be a little bit risky in this case. I'm going to take a buy setup with, we'll do a 25 pip stop. There's a good chance I could get stopped out on this trade, but the way I'm kind of viewing this is on the 4 hour we have this very strong descending channel. We're starting to see, if we look here, we're starting to get really impulsive moves. We've impulsively broken. Might be getting in early, but we'll see. So we'll put in that order and we'll just kind of play this forward. Put that on. Okay, so we'll see what we get here. Let's kind of keep moving this forward since I'm sure this video is going to be a lot longer than what we're used to. So just keep going. It's choppy, so not entirely giving the best confidence. I could start to say that could be forming an ascending channel. Let's see, since we have a 25 pip stop loss, we can move this to break even. Keep playing this forward, and we'll see if this is enough to keep it, or if goes a little bit lower. This kind of ascending channel plays out. And this is kind of the key too, is just being flexible with the market, evolving with it, understanding when things are changing, and really just using the most two recent touches to start evolving the structure and seeing, does this make sense? Is there anything that I can view from what I'm seeing that can give me reliable price action? So what we see is we've broken in this point. And basically reacting off of this double bottom here. It's not the cleanest setup in my books, super corrective, so I mean, not a huge deal that we got stopped out on this trade just by a hair. It happens, no big deal. So we'll just keep playing this forward, see what we get. At this point, it's looking like kind of getting this arcing nature here. See how we react to this double top on the hourly here. So we're starting to get a little bit of rejection. We'll just see if we get anything else. So we're getting a little bit of what I'd call a retrace. So it's kind of like that. I'm actually thinking about going short at this point. I mean, you could essentially draw something like this, but what I'm essentially looking at this point is just the overall nature of the market. and just seeing, and this is a pattern that happens quite frequently. We get a breakout and then price just kind of does this little scoop and starts to really struggle, and you start to see upper wicks in this case. You could call this another ascending channel as well, ascending within an ascending, but so we're going to take a sell. I know it seems like we're flip-flopping between, but as a trader, you know, we have to kind of be flexible in that regard. So we use a 25 pip stop, understanding that we could very easily get tagged out, but I've seen these patterns play off time and time again, so be pretty decent setup, I think. So we're starting at 40 pips, we can move break even. We'll see if we can break this trend line impulsively or not. It's a little bit corrected, but we'll see. So we're coming back in, we can just evolve this out. If we want, we can kind of start evolving just a little bit, just kind of taking the most reliable form. It doesn't really give us any real information, so I won't hold too much validity to this right now. So we're so close to being tagged out here. Might just squeeze in. Apparently MT4 likes these trend lines. Let's keep playing this forward, see what happens. Starting to get some pulse, so just lock in a little bit more profit. We can see, again, we're kind of starting to form on the 4 hour, kind of this descending channel. But at this point, we're kind of in the middle of nowhere, so looking for a buy might not be the best idea. Now, if we came correctively here and then started to see rejection, we could look for buys. So we'll just kind of keep playing that forward. So, and as we can see, we kind of totally got rid of that scenario. So let's clear that up, just get some more. Let's see this go. Definitely not the most convincing drop, but so at that point, we'll just kind of lock in. Seeing from this would be about the 90%, so we will go just above this high here. And we'll just play it out, seeing the 4 hours just dropping, so it's looking good. But I think I'm going to stop it at here. I feel like we've gone through quite a bit of things. Just seeing, you know, how I kind of approach the markets, how, you know, pattern separation, evolution of trend lines, big picture, small picture, kind of how all these things kind of come into play, and just really being flexible with your analysis. You might get stopped out. You know, we took a sell here, got tagged out. We were looking for buys, took a buy here, got stopped out. Could have gotten some profit here, decided to sell just because of the way this pattern was. So just seeing how you can flip back and forth, as long as you have a good bias, a good standpoint of the markets. Comes with experience for sure, but I hope you took a lot of value from this video. It was definitely fun to record. I'm still not very good with MT4 anymore, a little rusty, so if you cringed a little bit as I was playing with the trend lines and stuff, kind of looking at some of this price action and how I have stuff drawn is just making me kind of cringe a little bit in terms of this just not looking neat. But anyway, I'm gonna take off from here, but hope you enjoyed the video, and yeah, if you did, drop a comment in the comment section.